Give me a second. All right, so with email etiquette, there are just a couple things we are going to review because I would like you to create your own email and you're going to actually send that to me today. So some first things to remember, I actually have received a lot of interesting emails over the past couple of weeks, especially with remote learners and whatnot. So these are just simple steps I would like you to follow when you are writing an email, and these are good steps to remember moving on into the future. So 1, identify yourself. I know it's going to sound weird, but when you send me an email this year, just for practice purposes, I want you to say things like, hey, Mrs. Miser, this is so-and-so in your second period Advanced American Literature class. Reason being is because you might eventually have a professor in a class that you're in with 400 other people. That professor is probably teaching 3 other people, or I'm sorry, 3 other classes, which means he or she is juggling about 1,200 individuals. So it is super important that you identify the context that you know the individual. So, dear professor, this is so-and-so from your Wednesday 12:05 class in History 101. Identify yourself so they know the context of your relationship. Same thing if you're emailing someone in your community, if you know them or you've never met them, give yourself a brief introduction so that they have some context. So, dear Mr. Smith, my name is Sally Student, a freshman at Roosevelt High School. I enjoyed meeting you at last week's summit workshop. Letting that individual know how you know them or what your situation is within the community if you're reaching out to somebody else that's not school related. So number 2, write efficiently, be polite, get to the point. Don't write a very lengthy email because people are not likely to read it. If you find yourself writing a huge email to a teacher, you might want to pause and think, maybe it would be better if I just set up a little conference with them instead of typing out all of these questions. So that's a balance you have to maintain. So you want to keep it simple. Don't make the message too long, and definitely avoid any type of sarcasm or an attempt at humor, as that can read as unprofessional and it might come across the wrong way. So make sure you just get to the point of your article. People don't want to spend their time reading a super lengthy message from you. So short and sweet, to the point. Avoid trying to be funny. Even if you know the person really well, avoid trying to be funny, because just like a text message, it can come across as insulting or, could come across the wrong way, and you want to avoid that. Proofread. I had someone recently send me an email and it was so bad I had to email them back and say, I don't know what you're saying. I can't understand. You have sentence fragments. Everything is misspelled. I need you to redo this email and respond back to me. Make sure you read it for tone. Make sure when you read it back to yourself, that someone can't misinterpret your intentions. You're not coming across as rude or aggressive. And just stay classy. Use your salutations. That's your dear and your sign off. Make sure your request is reasonable as well. You don't want to come off as insulting. And you also don't want to send an email like if you were absent today and I got an email from you, hey, can you go over everything we went through in class? I missed class today. That's not a reasonable request. That's something that you need to take care of in person. Have a polite sign off and make sure you avoid that kind of text talk, as that can be misinterpreted and seen as unprofessional as well. And just a few more things. Now is a great time in your life. You guys have college stuff that's going to start happening soon. So that gummybearsforever or too cute for you at gmail.com needs to be deleted, and you need to move on to a more professional email, which in my opinion would be your first dot last name with some numbers if that's necessary. So make sure that you guys are creating those. This would be a really good time to create those because your St. C Schools account does not receive outside emails. So if you're signing up for college and you use your St. C Schools account, you're not going to get any of the emails. You got to make sure you have a professional email set up, and that this might be a good time to have that ready to go. Use a clear subject line. I had a student send me an email and they put their whole email in the subject line. So I'm sure those mistakes happen more on phones than on a computer, but just make sure your subject line is clear and you're not typing the entire subject, the entire email into the subject line. Email is forever. Don't embarrass yourself. Be appropriate. Make sure what you're requesting is reasonable, and don't be rude in your emails. It makes an impression that's going to last forever. And those things can be spread around too. So make good choices regarding the emails that you send. Avoid emoticons. All caps make people feel like you're yelling at them, so don't use all caps. And be patient. I had a student this past weekend who emailed me on Friday at 5 p.m., then emailed me on Saturday at 11 a.m., then Saturday again at 7 p.m., then Sunday at 2 p.m., then Sunday at 11 p.m. to ask me why I had not updated his grades yet. A pretty unreasonable request for the weekend, so just make sure you're giving that individual a 2-day window to respond. And keep note when you're emailing someone out of business hours or over a weekend, and realize that they're probably not going to get back to you until they're back at work. So be patient, follow that 24, 48-hour rule. Avoid that, did you get my email? A lot of times you can just send a follow-up. Hey, I just want to follow up with my previous question. I haven't heard from you and just wanted to make sure we were on the same page regarding this topic. So give them at least 2 days to respond. All right, so I would like you guys to send me an email. And you're going to send it to my sarah.miser@stcschools. It's the one with the little cartoon. Don't send it to the Omaresa email. Make sure you give it an appropriate subject, a greeting. There's some examples there. Identify yourself. So let me know what class I have you in. Also, this part here, make a request or fill me in. This is totally up to you what you want to email me. I've had people be very serious and send me, hey, could you please write me a letter of recommendation? To, hey, are you aware of the sloth that is living in the back of your classroom? So you get to pick the material that you want to send to me. It doesn't have to be serious. Just make sure you have all of the requirements there. Check your spelling, have a nice sign off, and put your name at the end. I realize that your name is in your email. However, one day that's not going to be the case. If you go to college, a lot of times your email addresses are your initials and then a couple numbers. So it's super important that you put your full name when you do that sign off. All right, so please email that to me and send it my way.